The minute before I walked down the aisle, I pretty much took a deep breath, and my best friend was in front of me. Sorry. Take a sip of coffee. Collect myself. Hey everyone, it's Bianca. Welcome back to another video on my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about how I planned my wedding during COVID-19. I am in no way a professional when it comes to wedding planning. I had neither myself or my husband had any idea that we would be dealing with something like this while planning our wedding. This is just me speaking from experience. So I'm going to start from the beginning, kind of give you a little bit of a timeline. I got engaged on February 22nd of 2019. I knew I wanted as much time as possible to plan my wedding. So I gave us a date of... So in the footage I say November 22nd, 2021, but it was actually September 26th, 2021. So about 2.5 years, and little did I know that allowing yourself too much time is also a thing. So the more I realized, and my fiance realized, that we were discussing our plans and what we wanted to do, the more we figured out that like maybe we gave ourselves a little too much time. This is where we change our date for the first time to November 22nd, 2021. Next was vendors and venues. So I immediately had Pinterest on my phone. I created a board. I was getting, colors and floral arrangements and all of that. And my fiance's cousin's wife is a florist over in Vermont, and I knew immediately once I looked at her work that this was the person I wanted to go with because her work is just so beautiful. I'll insert some pictures from her website, and I'll also link her website and her Instagram down below. She's amazing. I love her. And as far as venues went, we quickly realized how expensive this was all going to be once we started looking at the packages that other local venues had. We ended up going and seeing a local brewery downtown in our area, and they have not only a restaurant but a hall that you can rent, and it's not like a hotel looking kind of banquet hall. It's beautiful. I'll insert photos if I can find some. And I also had scheduled other meetings throughout that week and the following week for other venues as well, because I wanted some variety. But the minute we walked into that venue and we looked around and had the tour and everything, I just knew right away, like, this is where I'm gonna get married. And I ended up immediately canceling all the other meetings that I had with different vendors because I just knew, like, I had this feeling, I could envision everything happening, and it was just perfect. And another thing, food. You need food at a wedding. So I was really relieved to know that the venue that we went with actually has the restaurant prepare the food, and they have different packages that you can choose from. I'm gonna try and not do this with my hand anymore because I can kind of see it in my peripheral vision. They actually provide food for weddings, and so that was awesome because it was bulked into the price of the wedding package that we wanted. So right there's an expense that we've cut with trying to find an outside caterer. That was really awesome. And now, of course, with finding my wedding dress. In the beginning, I went to David's Bridal. There's one local to me, and I first wanted to figure out what dress type would kind of fit my height and my shape, because as you guys know, I'm 5'1". I'm very short and petite, and I didn't want this dress to like swallow me and kind of the dress wearing me versus me wearing the dress. I went with my sister, my mom, and my grandmother. a couple of times to get a feel for what style I was looking for. I knew I wanted lace, I wanted buttons, and I wanted it to feel like soft and romantic. And I knew right off the bat I did not want a ball gown dress because I would just feel too stuffy, and I tried one on and it was very like heavy and difficult to walk around in, and I knew I didn't want to deal with that on my wedding day. So that immediately was off the list. And as I say this, I want to tell you guys it is very good. It's a very good idea to do this if you are a shorter person, or if you don't really know what style you want, because looking online is totally different than putting them on in person. And it's a really good way to kind of narrow down and kind of de-stress that feeling of being surrounded by all of these beautiful gowns and you don't know where to start. A couple months go by, and this is the third time we go to David's bridal. I was not expecting to find a dress, and I actually found my dress that day. That day I had a couple of my friends who were actually going to be bridesmaids in my wedding. More on that later, that's important. And my mom, my grandmother, and my sister, obviously. And I ended up just not getting emotional, really. You know, you see on Say Yes to the Dress and all of these shows on TLC that they well up and they get emotional, and then everyone else starts crying, and it's just a big blubbering emotional moment. I actually didn't have that with my dress. I kind of, again, could sort of see me walking down the aisle and like everyone kind of looking at me. It was more of like a feeling deep down that I knew like this was the one. And I actually have a clip that one of my friends took for me, and I'll insert it here for you guys to see like me saying yes to my dress.
David's bridal, we believe dreams do come true. So what we want you to do is close your eyes, make a wish, don't repeat it. You want to keep it to yourself, and when you're ready, go ahead and ring your bell and everybody here will clap and cheer for you, okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, take your time whenever you're ready.
Okay, now this is where things get more stressful than they should have gotten. I had my dress. My sister actually ended up paying for my dress, which that was where I got emotional, because at the time I was like struggling with my work and all of that, and I wanted to put a deposit down and then make a couple payments to pay off the dress because it was a little bit over my price range. Then we found out that it was actually on sale when they rung it up, so that was really cool. And my sister was so gracious enough to get my dress for me, which I am forever thankful for and grateful for. And we took measurements and all of that for alterations, and things were starting to happen. You know, I found my dress. This is a pivotal moment in any woman's wedding planning journey, and I was able to cross it off my list. Now, this is near the end of 2019, and 2020 comes around. I have a countdown app on my phone, and I'm getting more and more excited as time goes by. Then COVID happens. This is where things really took a turn with my wedding planning. So 2020 comes, I'm so ecstatic, I found my dress, I'm showing everyone at my job, all of the friends who weren't there, I'm messaging them and I'm showing them pictures and the video of me saying yes. And when we originally heard about COVID, we had no idea the changes that would come along with this pandemic. We had planned to invite 70 people, 75 to our venue. So my fiance and I both decided to just do a smaller wedding. It'll be a little bit less overwhelming for both of us. And we had a wedding package picked out and we had our theme. So originally, my husband and I really love Mad Men. We love that vintage, old New York City feel. and I wanted to try and find something a little bit more us. And I ended up figuring out, like, what if we did sort of a Friends inspired theme. For those of you who've been following my channel, you know Friends is like one of my all-time favorite shows, and my husband and I actually watched it a lot when we first started dating, and it was just something we both bonded over. So we ended up kind of having a more Friends inspired theme. I figured this would also be perfect because my husband is actually from the city. He grew up in Soho, so this kind of tied in everything, because when we were dating early on, we would always go down there and visit his parents. So the city was kind of like a happy middle ground for both of us. It was something familiar. And so everything's starting to come along, right? You can kind of picture things slowly progressing. And then we start hearing that there's restrictions happening due to COVID. Cases are surging within our area, and, you know, large gatherings are starting to be shut down and canceled. And I'm hearing from my work at the time, I, you know, did a lot of producing of like wedding materials and stuff for brides, and they would come in so upset because their venue basically made them change their date. There was no negotiating or anything like that due to COVID. And one thing I have to say is my husband and I really lucked out with our venue and the event coordinator. She was completely very personable, very understanding with everything going on, and kind of let us decide what we wanted to do. Of course, we all pretty much stayed optimistic up until a certain point, and, you know, things weren't really clearing up. Things were kind of, you know, spiraling a little bit more with COVID. And so we ended up realizing that we didn't want to put any of our loved ones in any risks, just to have our wedding there. And so we decided, after talking with family, and we stayed up late nights talking about it, we decided to pretty much cut down our wedding to like 10 people. And this was a really big thing, at least for me, because coming from an Armenian background, you kind of have to have like your aunts, your uncles, your cousins there. So not being able to have them there was really like an odd feeling, because growing up in weddings, everyone was there. That was a really big change for me. And so we decided to change our plans for the third time. And at this point, I was just so over COVID. I was so over, you know, having to call our venue and vendors again, like trying to figure out what to do now, because every time the, you know, last conversation we would have, it was like, okay, like, you know, fingers crossed, let's stay optimistic, things could change. And then now it's like, okay, now you really have to figure something out. And so we changed our date for the third time. We kind of went back and forth with this because I still wanted enough time to get all of my final details in order. I had already discussed with my bridesmaids, you know, the style, the color, and everything of the dresses, and I pretty much had them choose what dress style they would want instead of having one style for each person. Things started to change with my bridal party. So 4 of my bridesmaids out of the 6 had ended up having prior engagements. So we picked our date for August 22nd, 2020. At that point, it gave us about 4.5 months to finish planning everything and finalizing details. Due to COVID, my florist, the family florist, with COVID and everything, she was more hesitant to, you know, travel, which I totally understand. A lot of her weddings in 2020 were kind of pushed around. So I was totally understandable with that, and I pretty much was understandable with my 4 bridesmaids who, you know, with this sudden change, again with COVID and having to notify everyone, it was kind of difficult for them to be able to kind of move everything around last minute, just because things were already paid for and everything. So I didn't want to be a bridezilla and like tell them it's either this or this. I didn't want to give them an ultimatum. So I ended up having only one of my bridesmaids, who's actually my maid of honor. She's my best friend, and that was it. 4 of my bridesmaids had prior plans. One of my bridesmaids, her wedding was actually a week before mine. She did not end up coming to the wedding. And so yeah, my fiance had no groomsmen because of everything going on. He just had my one brother, my older brother, be his kind of best man. And so that was pretty much it for the wedding party, and we kind of had to pick each other up because it was kind of a shock, because we were still kind of both anticipating having that like bit of normalcy, but at this point I think we were just immune to all of the changes due to COVID, and we were just really happy to still be able to have something positive going on that year. Of course, with the venue, we couldn't really have just 10 people there, so we ended up booking a newer date, June 25th of 2021, for like a bigger reception party for my whole family. And my husband has family in California. Obviously they weren't able to travel, so we ended up just doing a Facebook Live for our ceremony, and we notified everyone so people were able to kind of tune in virtually and still kind of be there and support us. And we pretty much just had immediate family, and we ended up having our ceremony at my sister's. She had a backyard, and we rented a tent and tables and chairs, and my dad, who's sort of a musician growing up, had the speakers and amplifier for music, and I made a playlist on Spotify, a couple of them for the wedding music and stuff. So to tie in the Friends theme that we had, my sister actually made us a welcome to our wedding sign that was purple and had the gold picture frame, the iconic frame from Friends, and it was perfect. We had it displayed in the front of the yard. I'll insert photos of that. And to also tie in the theme, we ended up walking up the aisle after the ceremony to the Friends theme song, so that was actually really fun to be able to include that. And we ended up renting an arch to this beautiful beechwood arch. It was circular, and my sister brilliantly enough came up with like faux flower arbor to kind of hang. Ended up having catering. We paid for catering, and my mom actually had a friend who made our wedding cake. So not having a loved one that you would want at your wedding, due to them no longer being with you, is very hard. My husband had lost his dad about 2 years ago, up to our wedding, and he had a really long battle with cancer, and I really wanted to do something special for him, and also my grandmother, my dad's mom. Right off the bat, I knew with planning I wanted to do an empty chair for them, and you know, kind of just have them know that they're thought of. But she ended up making this sign, and it says, "We know you'd be here today if heaven weren't so far away." And you have my grandmother, my dad's mom, and my husband's dad, my late father-in-law. So we actually put this on the empty chairs, kind of against the chairs. So it was a way of us to kind of remembering them. And I also wore my grandmother's earrings that she's actually wearing in this picture on my wedding day. So it was also a way to kind of have something old and borrowed and a way to remember her as well. So all in all, it was like, this was a total, like, my mind was blown so many times that, like, I don't even think I was even emotional after a certain point because of all of the changes. This, of course, is supposed to be like this amazing experience that every woman goes through in their life. And of course I had those moments, like when I found my dress and finding our venue and everything. And it was just a crazy, crazy experience. I've had people walk in and out of my inner circle. At the end of the day, what really mattered was when I was walking down that aisle. I really wasn't super nervous the day of my wedding because my fiance and I just knew each other for so long that I didn't really have butterflies or anything like that. Our photographer, who is amazing, Conrad, I'll link him down below for any of you guys looking for an amazing wedding photographer. We've worked together previously, so we kind of knew each other on a friend level. And knowing that, like, it was someone I knew taking our photos, I wasn't as stressed or awkward around that either. The minute before I walked down the aisle, I pretty much took a deep breath, and my best friend was in front of me. Sorry. Take a sip of coffee. Collect myself. Everything just like made sense. And although there was only like 10 people, you could feel like so much like support and love from everybody, and all of that drama of like losing bridesmaids and figuring out what I was gonna do, because I still wanted someone up there with me. Fun fact, my older sister actually got ordained for us to be able to do the officiating. Okay guys, so that is it for this video of how I planned my wedding during COVID. Although there was so much to take in, and I'm sorry if I overwhelmed any of you, I wouldn't have changed this for anything. It was amazing and crazy all at the same time, and I loved every minute of it. I'm so happy that my husband and I decided to go through with it despite all of the changes and whirlwinds that we went through together. To be able to say that we got married and, you know, have something positive to take out of 2020 is just a great, great feeling. If anything, I hope that there was something in this video that kind of motivated you to keep going if you are planning your wedding right now. I can definitely relate to you if you are super stressed and don't know where to turn. Feel free to DM me or even email me. I would love to kind of give you advice or just be someone for you to vent to if you need someone. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. I loved going down memory lane. I didn't really expect to get choked up, but that's what happened. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to have you back. For those of you who are already subscribed and watching, thank you so much for all of your support. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye everyone.